Hey guys, Garry here. Thanks for checking in today. So, I'm going to do a short video on changing out sights in an MMP, which kind of holds true for the 2.19, the 1.0s, the 2.0s, the shields, and stuff. So, bear with me here. Things you're going to need. And frankly, I don't even have all the tools that are on my list. And the reason being is one of the things that I usually use to get the sights off is a 4 to 8 pound mini sledgehammer and a steel drift punch. And I use those because Smith puts the fucking sights on like a 20-ton hydraulic press, and sight pushers struggle to get them off. It's real hard on the threads of a sight pusher to put that much stress on them repeatedly. And the issue there then becomes you fuck up your $150 sight pusher, and it's easier just to use a punch and a hammer and pow. However, my gang box with my sledgehammer and my drift punches in it isn't here at my house. So I'm going to use this crappy old wooden hammer that I found in the basement. And for a punch, I got this big ass center punch, which actually I use that for some other stuff too. but it'll take a sight off fine, like if I need to. I'm going to try the sight pusher and see if it'll slide it off without a whole bunch of effort. In addition to that, I'm going to use a pair of safety glasses because my peepers are important. And funny thing about these safety glasses, they're snazzy looking in orange. I don't know who makes them, probably UVEX, because they make shit for everybody. But this particular set was part of a bunch of shit that Taurus gave me. They had approached me about doing a video on the Millennium G2, maybe, I don't know. So anyhow, I wasn't super interested, but I talked to them, and they said, hey, you know, here, take some shirts and some glasses and like posters and I don't know, like the pile of swag, and like, we'd love to do some stuff with you. We'd love for you to make a video on this new gun because this one is finally the one that works. And I was like, oh, all right, if it works, great, then I'd love to talk about it. But if it doesn't, I'll tell people. And they're like, yeah, no problem. So when we finally do the official communication, they tell me that they need to have editorial control over the video. So like after I film it, I got to send it to them and let them cut the parts out they don't like. And I was like, I don't do that. And then they said, and when it's all over and you've shot the gun and stuff, you have to send it back. And I was like, but it retails for like $200. So do you want me to spend $300 in ammunition, 5 hours of filming and 10 hours of editing to make you a video, and I don't even get to keep the gun when we're done? Fuck that. And nobody gets editorial control over my videos. Like, that's just the way that it is. I've been making videos, and since I started making them, I've been working for 3 different companies, and none of them get editorial control over my videos either. And like, the job is on the line there, and whatever, it is what it is. I'm going to make what I want, and if you don't like it, I'll suffer the consequences. So anyhow, fuck Taurus in a big way. So I just scratched the logo off the corner of the lens and used the snazzy orange safety glasses. Anyway, in addition to that, what else am I going to have with me today? About some brew from Rock God Brewery. As a matter of fact, the gun I'm putting these on belongs to the owner. And so, always good to enjoy yourself a frosty beverage while you're working on guns. I'm going to have a set of excess big dots because, well, they're good, and everything else, not as good. And my MGW sight pusher, and I guess I better have a Glock 2.19 to put some sights on. Alright, so let's get to that. Gun itself, we are going to loosen the set screw on the top, and something to remember with the 2.19, see if I can't get a little closer here, is that as you're looking at the gun, just like the empty cases come out the side of the gun with the ejection port, the sights also come out the side of the gun with the ejection port. So, easy way to remember it. Shit comes out the right all the time. So, we're going to take the slide off. We'll flip the takedown lever, drop the slide forward, press trigger, take the slide off. I know you don't have to press the trigger. You can use the little doober, but you can press the trigger too. And then, For the sight pusher, get out these instructions here. What does it say? Read things and do stuff and face this direction, T handles. I'm a man. I'm just going to figure it out. So I'll line my rear sight up in the sight pusher, hold it in place with so, and we will try pressing it off. And coming off fine. No need for a hammer and the safety glasses, but you know what? There's a spring under the rear sight, so just in case I run all the way off and it shoots out, I'll wear the safety glasses, put it in place, or keep it in place if I can. If not, at least it won't hit me in the fucking eyeball. So, as you can see, we got the little plunger spring for the firing pin safety. So we're going to take those out, because what I want to do is I want to clean all the oil that's under there. When they use the 80,000 pound press, they oil it so it slides in there alright. I want to clean that all off because I'm going to bed this sight with Loctite, and I don't want the oil to mix with it. I want it to have a nice dry surface to adhere to. So I'll clean all that off now. And I'm going to clean all the oil and stuff out of this rear dovetail. Now just throw that thing to the side, let it dry, while I move on to the front sight. So I lock my slide in so that the front sight is in the pusher, and then I will drive that out as well, I hope. Alright, put that front one in there. This one's much tighter to get out than the rear one, but it is moving, so I'll keep cranking on this thing. It's almost all the way out. And then I'll clean it out too. So now that I got that out, I'm still going to use an alcohol pad. I use the same one because I'm cheap. Wipe all the oil out. Let that stuff evaporate. And mosey on to the next thing and stuff. Open the package for the big dots, which is now the DXW is what the big dots are called. And that's tritium in the front, not in the rear, with the M&P because the National Nuclear Regulatory Commission, I think it is, kind of dicked over excess for regulations on tritium and blah blah. But anyway, I don't like tritium on the rear anyhow, so it's a win. In the box there is a small Allen wrench. There is a tube of Loctite, a rear sight, and the piece de resistance, the big dot in the front. So what I like to do is I like to see if it'll go in by hand, and if it will go halfway across by hand, it's good. You can push it the rest of the way. If like this one, it only goes part of the way across, we're going to file some material off of the bottom of the sight in order to get it to sit lower in the dovetail, so that since it's at an angle, it'll change the geometry and allow it to be not so tight all the way across. Careful you don't do this over your beer. So as you can see, I'm filing off those two ridges, which is making the whole sight going to sit a little bit lower in the dovetail. I'm actually kind of glad this one didn't just slide right in, because then I wouldn't have a chance to show you that. So now I will test fit it again, and I can get it to go like 7/8 of the way in without any sight pushing. So that's the way I'm going to do it. Now the trickiest part that people always had was getting this tiny little spring and the cap inside, which used to just be like a flat washer without a hole in the middle. Now it's a T-shaped thing that fits in the spring, so it's a little easier to keep them together and push them in and get the sight started. Now, before I do that, I'm going to take some Loctite and I'm going to smear it around inside there and see how it finds its way into all the nooks and crannies. They come with this little duber of Loctite. What's great is you twist the top off, and now it's open, and it comes with a cap. It's fucking brilliant, because you're not going to use all this Loctite on this one set of sights. So in the dovetail itself, I am going to squirt some of the Loctite into the dovetail top and bottom, a little bit across the edge. I want to make sure I don't get any of the Loctite into the little hole for the plunger and the spring. And then I'm going to press that down, slide it in. Won't quite go the whole way, so I'll put the pusher on it and get it the rest of the way over. So now I got it all the way centered, and it's easy to use your eyeballs and line that thing up in the center where the edges of the dovetail are, where the slide goes from flat to round, lines up perfect with the excess sight, so you're going to get it all the way into the center. I use my finger to wipe off the extra Loctite because it pushed some of it out of the way. Wipe it on my pants. My wife loves that. So now I've got this rear sight perfectly centered in the back, and what I'm going to do now is use the included Allen wrench to put it in the captured set screw, and I'm going to tighten that thing down a little bit that way, get a little more torque on it going this way, the long part of the wrench. Now, the Loctite is filled in all the gaps on the side. I pushed the sight through, like it squeezed it out the other side. I'm going to take the Loctite and I'm going to run like a bead of it, like I was welding, around the gaps on the other side, and do the same thing and wipe the excess off with my finger. So that essentially, like bedding a precision rifle, same thing. It fills up all the gaps in between the sight, the machine sight, and the machine dovetail with this bedding compound of Loctite. With that, the rear sight is in place and done. I'm going to do the same thing to the front. So I'm going to take the sight. I'm going to see it by hand. If it'll go almost all the way in, good enough for me. And I will use the sight pusher to push it the rest of the way in. The MGW sight pusher, if you notice, it has a spot for a front sight and a spot for a rear sight, big gaps. The big dot is so fucking big, it doesn't fit in the front one. So you got to put it in the rear sight when it just got more slop in there. So if you got to push it back the other way, you got a whole bunch more extra winding to do. Before we go any further, I'll actually put the sight in facing the right direction. I put it out with the big dot facing you so the camera would pick up the white to black contrast and see how big it was compared to the slot that it's in. I may have not mentioned it a minute ago. You'll have to bear with me. The dovetail, I am going to put Loctite under both of the edges of the dovetail, all across the bottom, so it's like full of Loctite. And then I will put the front sight in as far as it will go by hand, and then use my sight pusher to push it in the rest of the way. And I'll just center that up and call it good. There we go. I just used the sight pusher to get it perfectly lined up in the center of the slide, front and rear. Once those are lined up, if you want to, you can use a set of calipers, micrometer, or whatever, and get measurements to make sure that it's the same. And I'll do that here when I'm done. And if it is, if it's off, I'll readjust it. But I just lined them up mechanically centered, and that's always worked on all the guns I've ever put big dots on. So you didn't need the hammer or the punch. I did use a file, make the sight slide in a little easier. Oops, should have been on the gear list. My bad. Get over it. You get what you pay for. With that, we got a functioning M&P 2.19 with some badass big dots on it. I don't even know if this camera will focus on the front one because, well, I'm still learning how to use the damn thing. With that, guns ready to rock. Don't forget to enjoy yourself some fine Rock God brew to celebrate a job well done. Take it easy. One might wonder, what do you do with the old sights once you take them off? Well, of course, you install them on your blue gun so that your blue gun has metal sights, right? Isn't that what everybody does?